Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome to the Sajda channel. You're tuned in. I'm your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad, and this is a very special episode in preparation for our upcoming event, Black Opera in White. And I'm going to be joined today by a fabulous young sister that I'm so proud of and so excited to now be connected to, Arlecia Stapleton. So be a friend, tell a friend, and let's talk opera. We'll be back in a few. Don't go anywhere.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Greetings, family, and welcome to the Sajda channel. You're tuned in. I'm your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad, and tonight we're going to talk about opera. I call this show Let's Talk Opera. Why? because I think there's a resurgence in our community about opera. Since I put this event together, Black Opera in White, I have met so many people that say, oh my God, I love the opera, or I just got into opera. So I thought, why not, in preparation for our event, you should have just saw the video. It's May 10th at the Elijah Muhammad House Museum. It's part of our Arts, Culture, and Civilization series. So make sure you get your tickets. Just go to sajdahouse.com. There's a ticker going across in the middle of the screen that tells you to click and go and get your tickets. We've only got about 20 seats left. So we need you all to get your seats like yesterday. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do because we can only fit so many people. See, somebody in the chat said, I love opera. Listen, I am so honored and I'm so grateful to my sister, Margaret Matthew, for introducing me to Arlecia Stapleton. We have become fast sisters. I'm like her auntie from another mother or something like that. This is my homegirl. I just love her and I admire her. We connected and I said, you know what? She's perfect. And I spoken to so many other opera singers and I said, she's perfect for what I want to do with this series. And for me, I love being able to give and pour into people that I connect with on a professional level. So music has been in my background. I sing. I am in no way near the depths as my sister Arlecia, but let me tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. Okay. Arlecia Stapleton. I'm trying to get her to just go by the name Arlecia. You know, like Beyonce. It just needs to be Arlecia. So we're going to do it. Arlecia is a classically trained soprano. She just graduated from DePaul University with a bachelor's in music and vocal performance. Okay, she studied this stuff. She's really into it. She specializes in many vocal styles, okay, including opera, musical theater, jazz, and R&B. She has sung the roles of Minerva in DePaul Opera Theater's production of the Monteverdi Opera. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but I'll let her do that. Okay. She's been, what else can I say about her? She recently featured in the Smiles of a Summer Show with Chappelle Performing Identity in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm butchering this. This spring, she will sing the role of Tasha in Bronzeville the Musical. If you have not seen Bronzeville the Musical, check them out. They're going to be at the Apollo Theater in New York, and we'll hear more about that. Got to plug that because we want everybody who's watching from New York to head on down, get your tickets at the Apollo. Let's sell that show out. As well as performing, Arlecia. She is an instructor of voice, acting, and piano. Okay. And she teaches voice privately in collaboration with the Manuka Community High School Choir Program. So I'm going to bring Arlecia in and we are going to talk opera. Here's my sister. There she goes.
Hello.
How are you doing, sis?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You're in the midst of getting ready for the Apollo Theater.
Yes.
What's that been like?
Honestly, it's been such an interesting and such a fulfilling experience. As a person in theater, I've been doing this my whole life. This is the first fully Black theater space that I've ever been in. And so it's been really exciting to connect with other Black artists and also to just really feel at home. I really feel the community there. There's a certain barrier that I don't necessarily have to worry about overcoming.
Yeah.
And also, you know, everyone in the space brings they each bring their own thing to the show, and they all have their own experiences within the art space. They've done television, they gig around the city. Like, there's so much that I can learn. And so it's been a really great experience.
Truly. That's awesome. Now, you studied opera or music your entire life since you were a little girl.
Yes.
Tell me about your musical journey.
The first time, well, I've been pretty much singing since I could talk. The first time that I did any organized singing was in 4th grade when I joined choir. And then my teacher at the time, she was I really loved her, and I thought I really respected her. And I was so eager to learn. And so I did that up until I got to middle school. I was in the choir program in middle school. I started doing theater when I was in 7th grade. My first ever show was Annie, the musical. Um,
Aw,
yeah, I wasn't Annie, but I was the star to be, which she has a great solo and she's
okay.
that was fun. And then in high school, I did theater in high school. I also did Merit School of Music, which is a tuition-free conservatory for high school age musicians here in Chicago. They're located on Peoria Street in Greektown. So
Okay.
I did that when I was a junior in high school. I also did the Lyric Opera Youth Opera Council.
Mm.
Um, and I did their vocal partnership program as well. So I was coming to the city a lot to sing. And so Chicago really is my artistic home, and I
Mhm.
worked my way around. And then when I got to college, I went to DePaul University, and, you know, did that. Still, I studied opera, but I was still doing musical theater. And also, I feel like I studied opera because I wanted to take the classical technique and
Mm.
it to do musical theater and also use it to sing many other things because I have so many different musical interests. And I really do believe, I don't believe that I should be put in a box,
No,
So
that's right.
if I can learn everything that I can about my voice, then that could help me with being able to sing anything that I see. So
Mhm.
yeah. And then now I've just been teaching full time. And then I also sing as well.
Mm. So talk to me about the technique of opera and what makes that different from just singing classically.
So classical singing and singing in opera are pretty much the same in terms of classical style of singing is the style. So you
Right.
use the classical style of singing in opera. Now,
Mhm.
opera is staged theater. So, you have a set, you have the costumes, you have the specific story, and now every song is written to bring that story along, basically.
Right.
But classical singing also involves, there are many standalone art songs, also song cycles, which are kind of like smaller concepts. It's like we have a general story, but it's not like a fully staged piece.
Mhm.
Um, and so the technique of opera is based foundationally in your breath and in understanding your breath, in knowing how much breath you have, knowing how long your phrases are, and breathing in a strategic way. Um, as I'm sure you know, but as some people may not know, opera singers, when they sing, so like if I'm singing at the Met, which has about 3,000 seats, I'm not using a microphone and I'm
Right.
singing over a full piece orchestra, and everyone in the space can hear me clearly.
Mhm.
So in order for that to happen, the breath has to be hooked up, you know?
Yeah. It's
Um,
about breath and voice placement, right?
exactly, yeah. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to singing super high notes and getting into that space, you want to create the space with your mouth. And so
Mhm.
you also want to have kind of like an inner smile a little bit. If you notice, sometimes you see musical theater singers or opera singers or any kind of singers, they have kind of like a permanent smile
Yes.
in the space, basically to give them that brightness of sound and to make it ringy and fill whatever space they're
Mhm.
in. Mhm.
I mentioned so many people are here in the chat going, they can't wait and they're excited about opera. Talk about Black people in opera. I would think I was telling you that I fell in love with Marian Anderson by looking at a book, and I remember thinking, "Huh, she looks like a relative." And then as I started reading the her biography, I was fascinated. And
Mhm.
I always did a little classical and a little jazz singing. So just watching her, and then I got into like Leontine Price and some of the
Mhm.
other Kathleen Battle,
Yeah.
and I did not know that so many other Black people were really, really into opera. So,
Yes.
what is our history in opera?
Well, so as I'm sure you know, Black people have been doing art and all kinds of art for literally ever.
Mhm.
And so there was a very prominent composer in Europe. He was called the Chevalier. And
I know
he
the
was,
Chevalier. There was a
yes,
movie, right?
yes, they recently just came out with a movie. Please go check it out. It's
Check
really
out the
great.
Chevalier. I'm gonna put that
Yeah.
in the chat. Go
Yes.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. So the Chevalier was a groundbreaking composer. And not only was he a composer, he was also an expert marksman. And he also had a lot of respect amongst the nobility and amongst high society in Europe as well. And the funny thing about him is that people often like to call him the Black Mozart. However, he was popular and famous in Europe before Mozart was even composing.
That's
And
right.
also, much of Mozart's music and much of his compositions are largely take inspiration from the Chevalier.
Mhm.
So I think that's very interesting how they call him the Black Mozart. However, he created Mozart. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that. So there's that. We have a very, very long history of making opera and composing opera. Now, in the United States, as you know, segregation, Jim Crow was a big thing for a very long time here. And so, Marian Anderson, interesting that you bring her up, she actually was not allowed to sing at the Metropolitan Opera. And so,
Right.
she had a concert that was both televised on the TV and also broadcast on the radio at the Lincoln Memorial, where she gave a recital there, and that was how the country found out about her and learned of her. And shortly after that, the Met changed its tune
Mhm,
because
mhm.
when you suppress art, especially when you suppress art that is so groundbreaking,
Mm.
um, it's only ever going to be a bad look for you,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so, she is a pioneer. She is one of the mothers, I would say.
Mhm.
And then you mentioned Leontine Price. So when they were renovating the Met and coming up with the new Met, Leontine Price was chosen to give the opening recital for that.
I didn't
Um,
know that.
yes, she was. And that was in 1964, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Um, and I watched a video where she talked about this, and she was like, they sat me down, they said, Leontine, we're opening the new Met next year, and we've chosen for you to be the performer. And she literally was like, are you
What?
joking? Like, are you
Mhm.
being serious? Like, and so she said, she was like, I lived like a nun for a year. And she was like, I studied my music every day. And I went to bed I'm pretty sure she went to bed at the latest 9 p.m. every night. And she was on a very strict regimen, and she did not drink for that entire year, didn't do anything that could possibly get in the way of
Mhm.
such a huge opportunity. And she said, it wasn't necessarily about, oh, this is such a great opportunity for me. This was about making her family, making herself,
Mm.
and making her people proud.
Mhm.
And so, as a Black performer, as Black people, we understand that, when we are put in spaces and when we are given attention on such a large scale, it really is such a responsibility, not only to do well, but also to bring our authentic selves to the
Yeah.
space and to
Yeah.
let people know why we were chosen.
Yeah.
And so that was a very impactful interview that I watched with her, where she really understood the
Mhm.
ability that she had. And as opposed to crumbling under pressure, as opposed to being overwhelmed, which I'm sure she was in some
Mhm.
cases, rightfully so, she chose to take it by the horns, make it happen. And that recital is still legendary to this day.
Yeah, yeah. It's what I love about opera is it gives you an opportunity to feel the texture
Mhm.
of a person's voice. And
Yes.
when you add that pain in, when you think about somebody like Marian Anderson, you can hear the pain of her
Mhm.
era in her voice.
Right.
It's no different from, any other singer, but it's something about the life experiences that come through the texture of the voice.
Right. Absolutely. And also in opera, it is theater. And so when you have a character who they're singing their death aria, it's like, oh, I'm on my deathbed. Obviously, none of us, not many of us have experienced that situation, but we do have to enter that space emotionally. And we have to think about times in our lives when we have felt this way, or even just, make it real.
Yeah.
Show the audience what's happening.
Yeah.
Show the authenticity there. So there really is a lot of depth. I mean, Jessie Norman, she is also one of the greats, the absolute greats in opera. I forget where she got this honorary doctorate from, but she did receive an honorary doctorate of voice from a very prestigious institution here in America, because she not only is an amazing singer, but was such an amazing technician.
Yeah.
Her understanding of the breath was not only emotional and physical, but it was intellectual.
And
And
so when you say understanding of the breath, do you mean like knowing where to breathe to place certain emotional emphasis on a note that ties to the lyrics?
well, so that is definitely part of it. Definitely knowing where to breathe, mapping out where the breath should happen. Obviously, we don't want to breathe in the middle of a word or anything. But also, the kind of breath that you take, the amount of air that you take in before the song even starts, before the phrase even starts. You know what I mean? And then also, I mentioned lasting through a phrase. So that breath, it's like, I wish I had a slinky in my hand right now. But when you take a breath and you have a phrase, you're gradually pulling the slinky apart as the phrase goes on. And so what that does is it allows you to supplement your breath, and you also know what's coming next. And so when your breath is hooked up, also when the technique is together, I don't have to worry about whether it'll sound good, because I know it will. Now I just turn my attention to the meaning of these words and why I'm singing.
Okay.
So it was so ingrained into her, and so like I could talk about Jessie Norman all day. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I love it. So in your performances around Chicago and in general, how have you been accepted as a Black opera singer, or does your voice kind of speak for itself?
Well, whenever you enter any new space, people have questions about you, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't really know you. They don't know how you do things. I definitely, as a Black woman, as a young Black woman, in many of these spaces that I'm in, I'm also the youngest person in the cast, which then, people underestimate me sometimes. People have their ideas about me. People have their preconceptions about me. But then when it's time to get to rehearsal, I show up, I'm prepared, I do what I do. All of those ideas, those preconceptions are out the window. And so I definitely I notice when there are vibes. And then I say, you know what though? I auditioned and I was chosen to be here. So I'm going to do what it is that they expect me to do, which is sing.
That's exactly right.
And so I don't often have I don't have a hard time after that usually, because and they understand that I'm not here because I like being on stage and getting attention. Obviously we do, but I'm doing this because I need to do this. This is my life's work. And no matter what show I'm doing, I apply the same level of expertise, the same standard to everything that I touch. So
the universe is going to bless you and just draw all kind of good, juicy stuff to you just for that statement. I do this because I need to do it. As a professional and as a business person, and I was trained much like you in a very much environment where there weren't people that looked like me, very high level business, negotiations, participation, just on another level. Usually I was the only person there. And I got to the point where I started to share what I had learned. And somebody asked me, I get this all the time on LinkedIn. They said, why do you do this? You do it for free, or you do it for little or no money. And I said, I do it because I have to. There's a yearning inside of me that says, this is what you must do. And
Exactly.
so I do it. And so with my podcast, with everything, I don't even pay attention to much else. It's just something that I have to do.
Right.
It's that important. I wanted to ask you, you said that about it, but I wanted to talk to the group about music is so universal and it's medicinal.
Yes.
Talk about the universality and the medicinal qualities of music as you've experienced it and seen it.
I mean, I will definitely say that there have been times in my life where music has saved my life.
Talk about that.
Where, when I was in high school, I was going through a very, very difficult time.
Okay.
And, it was really, really tough for me. It was really, really hard for me. And it was hard to even get out of bed. But the thing that really drove me was, one, I have to get out of bed because I have rehearsal. One.
Yeah.
But two, I would show up to rehearsal and everything that was going on outside of that space disappeared.
Just melted away.
And so I was able to do what I do best, which is create and sing and, connect with my fellow artists as well. And it really put a lot of things into perspective for me, where it was kind of just like, the world and my life is so much bigger than this situation here right now. And also like my career. I mean, if we're going to get into like the career of it all, my career is so much bigger than this one thing. That is very painful and feels like it's been dragging on forever, right? But there is so much more beyond this, And also too, like music is transcendent. Like there have been so many times where I have heard a piece of music, whether it be singing, whether it be an instrument of any kind, and I am just like either moved to tears or I'm like, I come to some kind of realization or I connect spiritually. Like music is spiritual.
Yeah.
Why would we sing in church? Right? Why would we sing about how much we love God and how like the things that God has given to us as children, right? Because we understand that is a language that all of us understand, but that is also a language that God understands.
Yes, it's a form of, it's a way to change your tone and your vibration so that you can recalibrate. Because what I'm hearing you saying is that you were at a very low tone or a low vibrational state because of whatever had happened in your life. You then started to do your performances and it raised your vibration to the point where all of a sudden all that low level stuff just kind of melted away.
Means nothing. It isn't even there anymore. Exactly.
Yeah. You had an interesting, I was a developer and owner of a micro hospital in Maryland, and we had a patient who would come in and he was diagnosed schizophrenic. And if he had his music with him, he loved the emotions. You got the best of my love. You know that one? He loved that. And when he had his headphones on with his music, he would sit there and it was like his whole countenance was completely different. And so his aide that would bring him to see my business partner, who was the doctor, knew to put certain music on and certain things that he liked. And it would even impact what aspect of his personality he was experiencing in that moment.
Yes.
And there was a point one time where a different aide, I don't know if that aide was on vacation or what happened, came, and first she didn't have the music on. And when he came in, I was like, whoa, because he could be violent at times. And she said, oh, okay, let me get his music. I guess maybe she took it away from him or didn't feel it was important, but you could literally see in his eyes. And when she came back, whatever music she put on was something that made him feel very violent. And so he said, I don't know if he said it to me or one of the staff, he said that he wanted to walk through the wall. And he was huge. He was probably about 6'5", 6'6", big guy. And we're like, whoa, don't walk through. And I asked her, something made me say, what are you playing? And she's like, oh, I don't know. She was very dismissive. And I said, because I remember how he would be singing, you got the best of my love. I said, he likes that song. And she put that on, and we just watched his eyes changed, the energy in his face changed, his body changed. So, music is like you said, it's transcendent, but it also helps to change our tone and our vibration. It's a very, very powerful. I was listening to a guitar solo by Prince the other day. And the way he was making that guitar talk and hit certain tones, it brought me to tears.
Yeah.
It was just the tones he was choosing. And his creative selections. It was just an entire 4 minutes of guitar that had me boo-hooing. It was just the musical tones. So,
right.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I shared this with you. He said that music, science, and color is medicine.
Yes.
And I think if we got more into that in schools and in our lives where we began to use music, I think it would be great. Like one of my favorite genres of music is 70s. I love disco music. You know why I like disco music? Because of the vibrations always high. Yeah. And it's always about love and connection and fun. And it's just, I just absolutely love it. I loved it since I was a little girl.
Right. I mean, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, incorporating that in schools, because one thing that very obviously influenced where I am as a professional, but also one thing that kept me together as a person and really helped develop me as a person was the music programs at all of the schools that I went to.
Yes.
And the music educators, the people who were in charge of teaching me and helping me understand, and who were patient with me and who adapted to my learning styles and all of that, and on days when maybe I was not in the best mood and I wasn't, the best behaviorally, using music as a way to get through to me. Right. And I do notice how in some school districts, whenever they have to cut back on funds, music and art is the first thing to go.
Big mistake.
And it's sad because it's like, as soon as that happens, the general vibe of the whole school changes. Like you said, it changes your mood. It changes your countenance, everything about that. And so I'm really a huge proponent of giving back to the community and giving young people access to music.
Yeah.
When we did Youth Opera Council, I was in high school. And the point of that was so that we could put together events that got high school age people to the opera house. And so we would have discounted tickets, and we would also have, talkbacks about these shows. And we would also then have them go and watch the show. And these would be like inner city kids who don't have a lot of experience with classical music, or even just I grew up in the suburbs. So even my friends from back where I was at, where, we're in the burbs, so we're not necessarily next to the lyric opera all the time. And so, and when I would invite my friends to these events and stuff, they would leave them and they would be like, wow, I didn't even know, I didn't know that was so and they would have all these questions, and they'd be like, what are things that you listen to, or how else can I listen to this, or how can I get involved in this? Or if they were musicians of a different kind, they would be like, this is very similar to what I do. Thing that's very different, but it's still music, it's still art, And so it really it's so important to education. It's so important to education. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because especially with everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Music and art is needed more than ever.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. When you and I met and we started talking about the Black opera in white that I was inspired to put together, I felt like our curation of the set list was very divinely guided.
Absolutely.
And I could just feel the presence. I just felt a really strong divine presence as we began to curate this. This is what I love about art, because when you're trying to get to God, you can get there fast with art.
Mm-hmm.
That is the time collapsing thing, is art.
Mm-hmm.
But we collapsed so much time and we came up with this set list. Talk a little bit about the set list and share with the audience what they're going to be experiencing on May 10th.
Absolutely. So a few of the selections, I'm super excited to talk about this actually. These are some of my favorite pieces I've ever sung ever. So this is also a passion project very close to my heart as well.
Yes. Passion project. I love that.
Yes. So one of the selections that I will be singing on May 10th is a song cycle called 3 Dream Portraits. Mm-hmm. And it was written by Margaret Bonds, who was a Black female composer during the 30s and 40s. And all of the poetry in each of these pieces is set to the poetry of Langston Hughes. And so 3 Dream Portraits, it has 3 songs. So one of them is called I Too. The other one is called Minstrel Man. And then the last one is called Dream Variations. Mm-hmm. And so I Too says, it says, I too sing America. I am the darker sister. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. And then she goes, at the end, she goes, nobody will dare tell me to eat in the kitchen again. And she says, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. And it really, and also the music is so beautiful. So I love that one. I can't even do it justice right now. But it is so impactful. And this song cycle specifically talks about the experience as a Black person in America. And it was written during, around the time of the Harlem Renaissance, which was also, Black people moving north because Jim Crow just wasn't cutting it anymore. Mm-hmm. And wages weren't cutting it anymore. And people were demanding respect. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to be respected as people, And mm-hmm. so they went up to Chicago, they went up to New York, all of these different places because they were like, well, I know that I can find that basic human respect there. And I also know that I can find a living wage there.
Yes.
And so very impactful poems in that song cycle. Very excited to do that one. Mm-hmm. I'm also doing another art song written by a Black composer. His name is John Work. Mm-hmm. This art song is called Soliloquy. Mm-hmm. And it's so beautiful. It says, if death be only half as sweet as life, I will not fear, I'll shed no tear. And it's very interesting because when this was written, Jim Crow was also happening as well. And so I think it's very interesting to have a song from the perspective of a Black person mm-hmm. to still say that life is so sweet. And the final phrase is, I love life so.
This is what's so beautiful about us as a culture and as a people. This is why you can't tell me we are not the people of God, because despite all this mistreatment, this pain through our sojourn, to say life is still sweet.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. That's one of the ones that makes me cry.
It's my favorite one. I love it. Mm-hmm. So it's, it's so impactful. And also having studied these pieces and, figuring out how I can properly honor these pieces as well and honor these composers has been such a journey for me. And so I love these pieces, very exciting. I'm also doing some French selections, doing some Spanish. I'm also doing Piangero la sorte mia from Julius Caesar by Handel. Mm-hmm. And now that is an aria in an opera, which means it's very specific to the story. Mm-hmm. And so in this song, Cleopatra is lamenting the death of her lover Caesar, who she thinks is dead. He's not dead, unbeknownst to her. So we'll get to that later. But she is lamenting, and she basically says, like, I will weep, And at one point in the song, there's we transition from sadness to anger. Mm. And so really understanding that transition into that, and also, understanding the many steps, or I guess the many faces of grief,
Mhm,
that one
mhm.
goes through as
I was
well.
just gonna say she's going through those stages, what they call it,
Mhm.
Sarah, shock, anger, resistance,
Yes,
acceptance.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so you definitely get to see that also musically as well, because the structure of this song is A B A.
Mhm.
So when the A section is repeated again, um, Cleopatra then does improvised or written in embellishments that I wrote myself that
Mm.
then kind of highlight the pain in the tone.
Mhm.
So very excited to be sharing that.
That's nice.
Yes.
Yes. And then we have one more.
Um,
Why did they shut
oh,
me out of
Why
heaven?
Did They Shut Me Out of Heaven?
Yeah.
Which that's part of a song cycle. That song cycle is 12 songs, so I'm only giving y'all one. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
But that was written by Aaron Copland, and it's set to the poetry of Emily Dickinson. Um, and the first line is, "Why do they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud?" And that's very interesting. That
Very
is
powerful.
such an interesting thing. And as I've continued to come back, learn that song, come back to it, all that. Um, it's been very interesting trying to figure out what exactly she means by that.
You know what? This is why that one again is another one of my favorite ones. Why did they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud? It's like you go someplace and you get rejected and you're like, what about me was too loud? So what we automatically always do is we go to our identity and we
Mhm.
figure out, what do I need to shave off from my identity to make myself more acceptable?
Palatable.
So
Hmm.
that's why we code switch and we do all of these things. If we're, the black so and so, we just say we're the so and so, and
Hmm.
so we're always going, wait, why did they shut me out of heaven? Because automatically we're assuming that somebody else has control over heaven.
Right.
Did I sing too loud? What do I have to do? What did I do
Right.
that was too loud?
Exactly. And the thing that I love about that, though, is that so she sings it twice, once at the beginning, second time at the end. Both times she sings, "Did I sing too loud?" Super high note above the staff, fortissimo. And so it's so funny because it's like, did I sing too loud? But also, I can't help but sing too loud.
Yes, I can't help but be me.
Yes. And so the desperation, and as we get through the rest of the poem, the desperation is really, really obvious there. Um, but it's so interesting, and yeah, I think it really does speak to this idea of assimilation and trying to be a little bit more palatable to certain people. But at the end of the day, as Black people, as women, because Emily Dickinson, she was white, but she was a woman, and so
Yeah.
I definitely know that she probably spoke up one too many times. They didn't
Mhm.
like that, especially since her ideas were probably good.
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
but it's we have no choice but to be ourselves. I have no choice. I don't even have like the bandwidth to try to create a personality that isn't
Yeah.
mine. Um, and so this song really speaks to that. And I
Yeah.
think even if she's wondering, and there's kind of that, um, there's a bit of that insecurity with that,
Mhm.
like why did they do this to me? She
Mhm.
still cannot help but be herself.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that because it reminds me of authenticity and
mhm,
your authenticity being your currency. See, if you allow yourself to be watered down and you start chipping away and removing certain things about yourself so that you can not be so loud, if you will, you lose your special connection with your creator.
yep,
See, your authenticity, my authenticity, it's my currency. It's
right.
my currency through life. It's your currency through life. And so when I think about all these songs that we've chosen, it's just people speaking about somebody saying something to us about our authenticity.
Hmm.
And it ties in so well with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who gave us a new identity as a people.
Right.
Because in the 1930s and the 1940s, we were fresh up out of slavery and we were still, some of us wearing dungarees and Negro cloth and not knowing how to navigate the world. And he says, no, no, no. He put that board in our back and said, listen, you are the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth. You are a direct descendant of God himself. And people were like, wait, what? And just hearing that changed the behaviors,
Right.
changed the way we saw things, which then changed the way the world responded to us.
Yes.
Was that Dr. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so instead of crouching us down to this small identity of former slaves, of people who had been abused, and took our identity off of that and said, you are not that which they hate.
Right.
You are bigger than that.
Yes.
And so these song selections just flow so smoothly with that concept. And I'm so excited and grateful to be partnering with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this project couldn't have come at a better time. And I'm really excited to also, share about myself through my art, you know, because sometimes words just do not do it justice. I'm very excited. Actually, my dress that I'm wearing for the recital just came in the mail yesterday. So we're fitting soon. Very exciting. So yeah, I'm really anticipating this, and I cannot wait to really share art that is so important to me and art that I love with fellow Black people as well. So
yeah, I'm so excited. I hope this is one of many productions we put together. I was looking at like the Negro Opera House in Pittsburgh, and I said, we might could take this little show on the road. And this expression of musical expression of Blackness and history and preservation through opera.
Absolutely.
I think the sky's the limits. And so I think we should put that out there into the stratosphere and let that come back to us and see what it means.
Absolutely. Yes. Completely.
Yeah. So we have like just a few minutes left. Is there anything you want to say? Do you want to sing a few notes? What do you want to do?
I mean, I was just gonna say, please, 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 please get your tickets soon, as soon as possible. 20 seats left, and 20 sounds like a lot right now, but 20 will not be a lot even tomorrow. So, go ahead and get those tickets. Very excited to see a full house. Don't forget to wear white. Remember, this is Black opera in white. And I'm just so excited to share something so personal to me and really connect with all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Arlecia. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And I know we'll be talking. Like I told you, I'm your auntie for life now.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Thank you, sis. We'll talk soon. Bye. Okay. All right, everybody, you heard it. That young lady is absolutely phenomenal. That's Arlecia. I'm taking the last name off of there. She's just Arlecia. Get your tickets. Yes, it's going to be a packed house, inshallah. So go to sajdahouse.com. Scroll down, and in yellow going across, it'll say Black Opera in White tickets. Click here. I see some of you in the chat who said you already got your tickets. I'm very excited, and I'm very, very grateful. Very grateful. Listen, I keep telling y'all, music, you can, if you're trying to connect and get to that vibration of Almighty God, music is the way you can get there quick. Music, art, it's just amazing medicine. And so I'm grateful. So thank you all. Thank you, Sister Sandra. I see you said you got your ticket. Nana Kosei Ventures, you got your tickets. Are you coming? Let's see who else we got here. Couple people. Garthastra Healing Arts is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. All right. So if you don't have your tickets, go and get them. We appreciate you very much, and follow us on social media. I'll tag Arlecia on when we post this, so that you all can start to follow her and build her following up. But she's Arlecia Stapleton, and I'll get that information out to everyone. You can follow me either at Sajda Wendy Muhammad or at Sajda House, either one. And we will see you all on May 10th. Ciao.